G'day all, Jess here. So today I'm going to show you an Australian native plant that I'm growing in my vegetable garden that is ornamental and edible. So it's a form of bush tucker, which I'm really happy to be growing in my garden. So this is Warrigal Greens, which is an awesome Australian native. It's also native to New Zealand and a few other South Pacific areas, apparently Chile as well. And it is probably one of my current favourite spinach plants. So it is a succulent, really, a succulent spinach. It has these lovely little tiny yellow flowers on it. And as you can see, it just grows like crazy here in my subtropical climate. But apparently it can grow Australia-wide and in almost every climate. It will die back in winter in colder climates, but here in the subtropics, it just kind of slows down its growth a little bit. Now, why this is a great plant for any garden is because it's edible, but it's also ornamental and it spreads and acts as a really good ground cover. So it's awesome for filling in spaces and permaculture gardens. I'm actually going to put a bunch of this down in my orchard, which I'm slowly planning on transforming into a food forest. When we bought this property, it just had a couple of citrus trees, well, quite a few citrus trees and a mulberry tree, and we're slowly adding extra fruit trees to that. And I want to make it less of a traditional orchard and more of a food forest. So that's my plan down there. So this is definitely going to be a big part of that because it is prolific, it is a great ground cover, and it's also, not only is it edible, but it's also great for the compost. So we can chop it back and pop it into the compost. And when we get chickens, it'll be something that we can give to them as well to add nitrogen into the compost and food into the chicken's diet. Now this, like most spinaches, this does have oxalates or oxalates in it. So you do need to blanch it before you eat it. Apparently you can blanch the small new leaves in cold water for half an hour and eat them fresh, or you can just blanch it in boiling water and then you can eat the spinach after that. So I love this plant. It's been really, really great. I actually grew this from a couple of cuttings that I got at a harvest swap, and I just chucked them in the soil and they just grew, they just took off. So I'm actually going to take some cuttings of this now that it's spring and propagate them so that they make some roots and they're good to go when it comes to planting them out into the wider garden and into the food forest. I'm probably going to plant this in a few other places potentially as well, but yeah, it's really prolific. It's very tasty. It's a little bit salty. Apparently it grows really well along the coast in sandy, salty areas. I'm not sure where this is available, if it's available in Europe and the UK and US and Canada, but it's definitely widely available here in Australia and in New Zealand because it's a native. So if you are in those areas, I strongly recommend you try some. A nice thing about this as well is that it will grow through our summer. Here in the subtropics, our summers are really hot and wet. So traditional European lettuces and spinaches do not grow particularly well. So I'm always on the hunt for like Asian spinaches and native things that will grow in our climate. I haven't grown this through summer yet. Apparently in our climate and in the tropics, it doesn't love being in full sun during summer. So we'll see how it goes in this spot. I might put some in some part shade as well and see how that goes. We'll see how this bit here goes. But we're about to chop this right back today because it is October. We're coming into summer soon, but we're going to chop this back today and process a whole bunch of it and put it in the freezer so we can just pop it into soups and stews and stir fries and things like that without having to wait and do the blanching every single time. So we're going to pop a bunch of it in the freezer for that purpose. As you can see, you can be pretty ruthless with this because it will just grow back from any point. And I know we're coming into the wet season where it will probably go off even more than it already has, so that's why we're giving it a big prune back now. and we have a lot of spinach to process today. Just leave a little bit of overhang here. And oh, there is a sad leek that's gotten a little bit buried here. And there we go. A lot of greenery. While I'm doing that, Nick is going to be harvesting the ridiculous amount of tomatoes that are growing at the moment in here, in the archway, and in the other archway. Awesome plant. I think it's a really pretty plant, very prolific. It just spills over, as you can see here. The plant itself is like, I don't know if this is more than one actually. There's one here, I can feel it. I think this might just be one plant. Yeah, this is just one plant that you can see here. It's growing that way as well. It's kind of taking over, which I don't mind because it acts as a bit of a living ground cover. But I will trim some of that back. I might let this stuff grow out through the garden a little bit as long as it's not disturbing anything else. But it grows to about 20 centimetres high, but it spreads up to 2 metres. So it takes up a lot of space, which if you're using it as a ground cover or in a permaculture food forest is probably a good thing. But if you're using it in a small backyard garden, you might just need to keep on top of pruning it back so that it doesn't take over, especially when it gets a lot of water and sunshine. So there you have it, Warrigal spinach. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Have you grown this? Are you going to give it a go? I highly recommend it in any garden. You can see how it's just absolutely prolific. And how good is a prolific edible plant that you really don't have to do anything to? I mean, look at that lovely shine it's got. So pretty. Alice and I say thanks so much for watching today. I hope you enjoyed this one. I don't think she's enjoying being held, so we'll let her go. If you enjoyed this one and found it useful, please do give me a thumbs up, and I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Are you going to grow this? Have you grown it before? Do you have any good recipe suggestions? Thanks again, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye for now.